Let me tell you, there were tears. There were tears. So in my opinion, there are two types of artists. You have the artists who perform their songs, and then you have artists who give a show. And Mk.gee definitely falls in the last category. So I've had the privilege to see him not once, but twice. So in this video, I'm going to share my experience of a Mk.gee show. Let's start off with the question, what makes a live show a good show? Well, first of all, it's very subjective. What I like, you might dislike. But for me, I think it's one, when an artist gives a show instead of just, performing a song, what I just mentioned. But a show to me is also about pulling the audience into the world of the artist that is performing. So a great example is Tyler, the Creator. He manages to create like this experience through his album characters, set dressing, his undeniable stage presence, great breath control, and a very thought out set list. But another thing that I really like, or what makes to me a good show, is when an artist finds a way to catch you off guard, like surprise you by performing a song in a completely different way, maybe even improvise, play a longer version, stuff like that. I know there's a bunch of people out there who hate it when some of their favorite artists plays their biggest hit in an avant-garde way, but I kind of like it because it creates this kind of like anticipation. You never know what's going to happen next. My mom, for instance, she is a major Prince fan, and she said the reason she thought he was one of the greatest artists, live artists she's ever seen, was for that exact reason. She said you never knew what he was going to do next. He was not afraid to take his time, play some of his songs in such a different way that even his biggest fans needed a couple seconds, sometimes even minutes, before they recognized the song that he was playing. And not to mention him deciding how long his set would take. I've heard stories of people being at a 4-hour-long Prince concert that was supposed to last for only 2 hours, but he just kept going, just jamming, having fun, improvising, just let the music speak through him. But to me, most importantly, a good live show makes you an even bigger fan of the artist than you were before the show. And let me tell you, that is definitely the case for me after seeing Mk.gee live. So on September 29th, I went to a show in Brooklyn Paramount. And last Tuesday, November 5th, I went to his show in Amsterdam. Let's talk about the Brooklyn show first. Leading up to the Brooklyn show, I was a little nervous because the day before his Brooklyn show, he canceled his Philly show because he was sick. So it was kind of nerve-wracking. Everybody was like, is he going to cancel his Brooklyn show as well? Is he going to show up? Luckily, he did. Let's start off by saying that Brooklyn Paramount, beautiful location. It took my breath away. It was recently renovated. It was a lot bigger than I expected, but beautiful, beautiful location. The night of that show, I saw people on Reddit talking about Mk.gee's Spotify statistics, and that indicated at that time that most of his fans live in the Brooklyn, New York area. So they said the energy would probably be insane that night. And let me tell you, they did not lie. It was. You could tell that the room was filled with day one 2018 pronounced Mk.gee fans who knew every song, word for word. I saw energy exchange happening right in front of my eyes. Like, the crowd was so excited to see him. They gave him all the energy that they had, and he gave it right back. Mk.gee seems to have like a very shy, anonymous demeanor, which he used to his advantage when it comes to the lighting of the show. So most of the show, the light comes from the back, which makes him into like this silhouette. You barely see his face, which gives off like the same mystical feel his music gives. When the show started, the guitar played, Dream Police, immediate goosebumps. Immediately. The tears came when he did Candy. Mind you, Candy wasn't even my favorite before the show. Dream Police was. Changes every day, but Dream Police was. But when... he executes it so well, for one, but it was mostly the audience singing from the top of their lungs. It was in that moment where I thought, we're all witnessing something very special tonight. Like, this is the show we're going to tell our kids about in 20, 30 years. He played that song twice. he played it again during his encore. Speaking of playing songs multiple times, during his Brooklyn Paramount show, he played DNM 4 times. I think the most amount of times that he's played that song at a show is like 12. I think that was in Minneapolis, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Before the show, I wasn't the biggest fan of DNM. Might have been my least favorite song of the record, but after his live shows, hearing it multiple times, I'm starting to appreciate it more, so that's nice. Another thing, because he was sick.
I got the damn flu a couple days ago. I'm feeling good now.
Vocally, he wasn't at his best.
My voice is fucked, so help me out.
But because of his energy and the audience's energy, I barely noticed. Also, I don't know what he was supposed to sound live because it was the very first time that I saw him live, so I really didn't mind. One of the biggest surprises of that night was him playing CZ from his Museum of Contradiction project. Fence already mentioned that he barely to almost never plays songs from his older projects, so it was quite of a surprise. But this was also like one of those moments where it took me a couple minutes, not even seconds, before I realized that he was playing CZ because he took a completely different approach. And I remember singing along, but still not knowing which song I was singing, but I knew that I knew the song, and then I came to realize it's actually one of my favorite songs from their project, CZ. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was a show I knew I needed to see again. So here's the thing. When the ticket sales started for his tour a couple months ago, my boyfriend and I, we bought tickets for the Brooklyn show because we knew we were going to be in town around that time. But then he said, I also want to go with my friends when he's here in Amsterdam. Do you want tickets too? And my dumbass said, no, one time will be enough. Well, let me tell you, Sagit, after the Brooklyn show, wanted to smack past Sagit in the face because by the time that I realized I needed to see the show again, of course, the tickets for Amsterdam were sold out. I was looking, asking everywhere, almost had a breakdown because I was like, it looks like I'm going to miss the show. But a week before his Amsterdam show, I received an email from the label that's working with him here in the Netherlands. They said that they saw my previous video on Mk.gee, thought it was cool, asked if I had tickets for his show, and if not, if I wanted to. Biggest shout out to Stijn. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and giving me the chance to see Mk.gee in Amsterdam as well. Now, let's talk about the Amsterdam show. So the show was at Paradiso, historical venue here in Amsterdam, a lot smaller than Brooklyn Paramount, which made it a very intimate show, which was also really cool to experience. And one thing I immediately noticed was that vocally he was in a much better shape than during his Brooklyn show. Like I said, I really didn't mind during the Brooklyn show, one, because I was the first time, so I had no idea how he was supposed to sound like live. But it was very nice to hear this time around how good he actually live is and that he can pull it off, because that's another thing. Like sometimes you can sound great on the record, but live it's, but he pulled it off. The setlist wasn't that much different from his Brooklyn show. Since his show in Brooklyn, he released a new song, Rockman. So I was also thinking, like, is he gonna play Rockman again? Because I wasn't able to hear that song during the Brooklyn show because it wasn't out yet. And he did. Another fun surprise was Cizo, his supporting act, joining him on stage for New Low. This time around, he did DNM 3 times instead of 4 times. And like I said before, the room being a lot smaller was also really nice because, it just made it more intimate. So that was pretty cool, but I already said that. Oh, another difference with the Brooklyn show is that they weren't selling his vinyl back in Brooklyn. In Amsterdam, they did. I obviously snatched that before the show. Wait, let me just take this off. Had to snatch that before the show because anybody who's been trying to get their hands on Two Star and the Dream Police vinyl, it's a pain in the ass. So very happy with this. Which show was my favorite, you ask? You can probably already guess. It was the Brooklyn Paramount show. Maybe it's not a fair comparison because Brooklyn Paramount was my very first time, and I think there's nothing like seeing a great artist for the very first time, if it's not a bad show. But also, I've mentioned it so many times, the energy was just different. It was so contagious. People being so excited, making that made him really excited. And like I said before, I just felt like there was magic in the air. It felt like I was witnessing something special. It wasn't like his Amsterdam show wasn't good at all, but if I had to pick a favorite, it was that show. So what makes him so good live? For one, the most obvious point, he is a great guitar player. And he has managed to create his own sound. I already mentioned that in my previous video where I talked about the fact that there's like a lot of videos out there where people wonder how to create the Mk.gee sound, how they want the Mk.gee sound. That's how you know that he has created something very unique. And it's very cool to witness that live and to hear it live. And it just goes on a different level. Something I really noticed the second time around is how he uses big contrast throughout his show. So he goes from playing very loud and big to like small and inwards in like a matter of seconds. Like it's like a light switch that goes off and on. He's also very good at keeping the audience on their toes. Like I've said this a million times throughout this video, but you can constantly feel the anticipation in the air. But it's not just like what's coming next. It's also how is he going to do the next thing that's coming? He seems very comfortable on stage. He seems very comfortable with his instrument, with his bandmates, and he has this sense of control while at the same time giving off the feeling that nothing is set in stone and that anything can happen at any time. So yeah, for me, that's why I think he's a great live artist. I think that's enough fangirling for now. I think that's enough fangirling. Yeah, this is going to be the tour that people will brag about for years, saying, I was there, you know, me included.